Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and welcome all. If you are um, unfamiliar with this channel, we simulcast over on Twitch, YouTube, and our Discord server using audio and video sources. Now, if you want to participate, we love for you to participate live. So, just as below, maybe, just maybe, your comment will be a highlight on this show. All right, so let's get into it. For those who do not know, this is a long form content show. Each day, Monday through Friday, for an hour, we talk about our theme. And the theme for this week is love, lust, desire, and obsession, and everything related to it. And each day we subdivide that based on the day. Today is Monster Monday. And of course, we have other categories during the week: Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar of Exploration Thursday, and Future Friday. But this Monster Monday, although we've hinted around this on various Monster Mondays, specifically, I remember us doing a week of talking about the Medusa. I thought we would talk about something that may not be utilized very much in. Hey there, Ivor. Hey, what's going on there? There may or may not be many instances where we use this idea of like desire and obsession and such in games, but mythologically, it has a huge legacy of doing such a thing. Hey, Rurik, what's going on there? Hey guys. Yeah. Oh, there's a sound problem again. Yeah. I am going to turn off the camera for Discord and see if this will if the audio will improve. We've been having some problems there with me punching out audio and video to three different sources, and let's hope that the audio content will improve because a lot of people like to listen in rather than watch. You know, you really don't need to watch my ugly mug for an hour. All right. Now, I do want to say just up front that we will not be getting X-rated on the channel. I understand there may be some people who are prepping themselves with some lotion and a towel, maybe. But I thought we would talk about all the things, all the messy stuff that leads up to it, during and afterwards when it comes to humanity and relationships. Rorik's like, oh, jeez. Like, yeah, we're not going to do that part of it, but we will. But I think the messy parts of relationships, romantic or not, unrequited love or not, the darker aspects of it, whether it's obsession, stalking, the idea of a true honest relationship versus things such as like arranged marriages and your lot in life and where you belong and the people that you would like to belong to. And I think even platonic relationships, the relationships of the people that form relationships in the crucible of, say, like battle or trauma, and how you deal with it when those conditions are removed. I think we can talk about those together. And of course, we're talking about tabletop role-playing games specifically, and what kind of stories we can tell with them. And maybe, just maybe, there are ways we can draw on some high concepts and bring them down into our table to have some surprise for the player characters, or even as a character concept, have someone else look and go, oh, that's a really cool different idea. All right, so we know for a fact that in mythology, the idea of lust and jealousy and desire, and even as we've moved on into our modern age, the love triangles, the individuals that should be together but are prevented from being together, the individuals that cross time and space to once again unite. Yeah, you can hear her in the background. She has her own chair. I suppose I should have her own camera, I suppose. But yeah, the idea of, like, for example, the gods being jealous of the beauty of mortals, or an individual being locked away or poisoned and put into stasis, because another individual is jealous of them. There, much of Shakespeare's plays deal with the idea of love and lust and obsession and stalking and twisting people's minds as through their perception of one another. The most famous of which would be Romeo and Juliet. Two warring families and the two individuals that want to be together, but their factions will not allow them to be. And then the machinations that happen around it. And the reason why I thought we would bring it up and use this as a subject is because we often default into wanting to have the big bad evil guy, want to gain power, to dominate something. I'm an evil necromancer and I'm going to flood the world with undead. I'm an evil dragon. There's an evil fiend or a cult or something. And sure, they're not bad, but a lot of times it's like, well, what's the purpose, right? Where are we going with this? And it can be, I think we can draw upon, um, I think we can draw upon the more base emotions where maybe someone has fallen in love. Um, a lot of famous Dracula stories begin with this immortal whose true love is long gone and long passed away, but they become obsessed with yet another. Another Dracula becomes obsessed with another woman that happens to look like or is a descendant of their lost love, and then all of the other things fall into place: the desire for power, the jealousies, the machinations happening behind the curtain, that where the PCs get drawn into it. But it all started because of wanting to desire a person who looked or sounded like someone that they remember from their past. Yeah. Ivor says says most of the time mortals are going to get a really bad day coming. In this case, and I think you're referring to the idea of, like, um, stretching that idea out. That, yeah, is that the idea that when you know when the gods happen to come into the mortal realm and get jealous of the mortals that look good or something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of bad things that happen, um, uh, turning someone into a Medusa, or and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, will happen. Dante says, yeah, it says, sees clickbait title, evil laugh commences. Yeah, not quite clickbait. Yeah, I suppose it would be clickbaity if we didn't bother to talk about it. But what we're not going to do is talk about the heavy sexual content of it. Although that has a lot to do with it, because ultimately, in many of those cases, that's the end result of what someone wants. I mean, hell, for most of the 80s and 90s, the bad guy, in the movies, always captures the girlfriend, and of course she has to dress up in the scantily clad outfit or something because the bad guy wants to uh, to be with her or something. A huge trope with the saving the princess TV and movie trope, right? And while it is a very boring and tired trope, it has a lot to do with the motivations of a lot of our bad guys, right? That, yeah, they want power. They want to enact revenge. They're jealous of the people around them. They have a lot of envy, but they also have this desire to obtain something that they normally cannot get through free will, you know? Life says it can be very funny in an awkward way, but your definition of romantic has to be very fluid to look at. um, Boogie bouquets wrapped in things the party found in their belly buttons and other crevices. Good courting gifts here. So yeah, there's like this. I think the idea of the classic idea of romance may not quite fit into our tabletop role playing concepts, right? But I think the motivations as to why people do the things they do could be in the background. I mean, who's to say that an evil lich or a mummy or something um, hasn't tried to obtain immortality because they want to keep their loved one around, or the idea of their loved one. I mean, a classic villain for Batman um, has been Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze's background classically has been, keeping his wife alive in stasis because of some she has, so that she doesn't die. And his whole point in being a criminal is to save her life, right? And the things that he does to do it. And it's a great motivation because despite the fact that Batman wants to beat the hell out of him, punch him in the throat, you do have this thing in the background where it's like, well, if Batman wins, his wife dies, and she's the innocent in all of this. And so, yeah, I like it. Life goes on to say, say yes, classic love stories can be amazing, can make a big bad evil guy feel so very human, sympathetic, and relatable. I find it harder with players. Getting them to that level of immersion is something I would rather happen unplanned and naturally. I agree with you, especially if someone comes to the table. And again, you know, session zero, having conversations at the table, discussing how juvenile you want to be when using these kind of themes is important, because you don't want one player to take it very seriously and another player to make fun of the person who introduces it. So yeah, unplanned and having it naturally happen, I think, is a great idea. Um, Yeah, Dante says, "Hey, I wasn't complaining. I've had great times with pushing the envelope to get characters deeper into a role. Had a lady player make a barbarian who then had a fling with an NPC, elevated that NPC to main character and DM resource, which is a thing. And of course, we all I don't know if you guys have heard about lines and veils, where you can discuss which kind of lines you won't cross, and veils where, or what sometimes people can refer to as fading the black, where you know a player may want to have a rendezvous with an NPC, and they both give each other the eye, and then of course we fade to black, and then we wake up the next day or the moments later when they have finished their coitus, but we don't see it, we don't describe it, we don't take a look at it, but we know it's happened, right? And you could very easily do that in the game as well, and just assume that it happened, mainly because your imagination gets to take over for that, right? Ivor says, how about a guy who who all calls evil, but in a result he is not good but reasonable person whose goal is to unite kingdoms, who always is in war with each other. Um, like we have. Oh shoot! It moved. Sorry. Um, why won't my chat move? There we go. Like we have Kane in the CNC series. He is the Count villain. Yes, by GDI, but can you tell his ideas are pure evil? I guess what you're referring to is the idea that someone from somewhere else will perceive that person to be evil. Batman and Mr. Freeze, right? I know I'm pulling a comic book trope here, but from the outside, yeah, all their actions are perceived as evil and wrong. But without the context of it, this person who's trying to save this woman's life, you then have to make the choice, and it's not about judging whether they're good or evil. It's a measure of what lengths they will go to achieve their goal. So sure, the measurement, and this is a classic trope in Dungeons and Dragons anyway, whether the person themselves measures their own actions by evil, or somebody else measures their actions by evil. And of course, when you start talking about relationships and love and lust and things like that, uh, obsession and stalking, it's like, there, some of us have a line and you're like, yeah, I think you crossed that line. And this is a great way for the player characters to both be involved in it, have a reason to stop the evil machinations, but still feel something for the NPC and might want to take another avenue. Or on the other hand, the populace may feel that the player characters are taking it a little too far, right? Maybe the population is like, maybe you should go, I understand what Mr. Freeze wants. Maybe we should talk to the guy. And where somebody else is like, no, I'm throat punching today, right? Oh man. Ooh, live and let dice. Hey, what's going on there? Live and let dice as doppelgangers would make the classic NPC stalker, as well as doppelgangers also could make a pretty reasonable case for love and desire, right? Let's say, who's to say that a doppelganger inserted into a royal family doesn't actually fall in love with the person that they are trying to backstab, right? Or that a doppelganger lives as an individual for so long that they lose sight of them being a doppelganger, but become obsessed with living the life that they are pretending to live. Um, Especially if they've killed someone, taken their place, and now they're like, no, I'm the real person you fell in love with. And this person's like, oh my God, you're a beast. And the doppelganger's like, I don't want you to hate me, which would be pretty interesting for a doppelganger to not want to be killed, or someone, no matter what the doppelganger has done, they still love the doppelganger. Maybe the doppelganger becomes pregnant and gives birth to a little shape changer child or something before the king wants to kill the child in the public square or something like that, right? You could go on and on and on. Yeah. Um, Omen says, if you talk about obsession, there are those moments where when a person will do anything just to make ends meet. Anything. I once played a 40K game where a woman was willing to turn to warp magic just to save a family member. While evil, her actions were understandable. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this idea of that thin line between love and obsession and such really does play a really good mark for an NPC, right? Excuse me. Whoa, I have something. I've gotten a breathing issue coming up. All right. Um, yeah. Her light says it could be also be funny to get creative with those critical successes and failures. That natural 20 on diplomacy with an NPC suddenly gets very awkward, or that fumble on a grapple pickpocket roll that's misunderstood. Yeah. Maybe someone rolls far too high on diplomacy or something, and now all of a sudden they have like an entourage of gawkers or something floating around them. You don't want to be the rogue trying to sneak into the castle when there's 20 people who are obsessed with your look and desire to be around you because they've become like an entourage or something like that. Um, Ogre says, one of the things that disturbs me when it comes to love and lust, and especially in fantasy or space opera, is when people want to add a stat for appearance. Yeah, yeah, in a multi-species setting, appearance becomes strange. Hey, like we've said many times in the role-playing space, right? In the beginning, orcs were the ugly bestial race and they just need to be killed. But in today's context, we're just like, yeah, there are plenty of fans out there. I'm looking at you, Omen, that are fans of orcs and the like, and that everyone of every bodily color, shape, or whatever as human beings has a group out there that's absolutely positively finds them extremely desirable, right? And you would get that in a fantasy setting as well. There are a lot of there's some people who are, for good bad in your opinion, they would desire some of those Lovecraftian creatures and would love to be found in a romantic entanglement with such things. So yeah. Ogre says the point of view is so important that such a stat is impossible. Hell, even inside a single species. Yep. I've got a friend who likes chubby people. I prefer athletic ones. Another like them, Rubenesque. Yep. Yeah. More of a topic for Discord Tuesday. Yeah, where we talk about mechanics. I do agree with you because that would mean if you have an attractiveness stat, that would mean there would be a universal measurement of attractiveness, and it isn't. I suppose you could have a social method of attractiveness, meaning like there's one that is more socially acceptable, but on a but behind the scenes, that's not necessarily the case, right? Like definitely not a huge fan of the ultra skinny fashion model image. It's actually kind of a bit of a turnoff for me. So, kiddies, no, no, no. We're all here to play games. No fighting at the table. Sorry about that, guys. Ooh, 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 ooh. I lost my chat windows. There we go. Um, Ivor says we have an ex talking about we have an exiled prince whose family was slaughtered by an ancestor of a current king. So this guy turns to black magic so he can get his rightful throne back. And the depending a lot of times our definitions are based on where we come into, where we end up inserting ourselves into the storyline, right? If someone is using black magic to return to a throne, we then go, oh well, they're evil. But if they were disposed and their family was slaughtered and we didn't know that information, then we don't have the context for it. So a lot of that has to do with the time, and the timing has a lot to do with that. Um, the second half of the Chronicles of Amber series, Amber reveals that there is an underground Amber cult in the Courts of Chaos, and this is by Tesla Ranger, where adherents have taken to fixating on individual members of the Amber royal family. Participants create shrines to their favorite Amberite with images and paraphernalia. The more authentic, the better. Dara's shrine to Corwin contains a portal to a dungeon where Corwin himself is being held. I remember the game Amber, and yeah, we often don't think of people dressing as adorning themselves as someone else to be more like them. NPCs wanting to dress like the player characters or to do things to draw the player character's attention, whether it's like flowers or gifts or poetry or following the player character around to try to impress them, even if the same attention isn't given back to the NPC. And so oftentimes we tend to ignore that part of it, and it could be that in the beginning maybe an NPC is pretty innocent, but then becomes a major character, or is a thread for the DM to pull on to make that player character like, yeah, I became this big bad evil person because you just ignored me. And a lot of times, how many times have we heard about this in high school where 20 years later we're adults, and the one person back in high school ignored someone in school, but the other person had a crush on them, and then they've carried it around for 20 or 30 years, and it's like, I didn't even notice you back then. And they're like, you're right, I'm gonna burn this school down and this class reunion and stuff because one person had an obsession, the other person's like, I don't even remember, you know? Yeah. Um, yeah. Rorik says attraction is different to everyone. Um, Statting it makes it standardized. And now, mind you, I suppose, when you start talking, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, really, but when you start standardizing things, uh, much like a gold standard in Dungeons and Dragons, then that means that some kind of way there's like an unspoken agreement that everyone thinks one thing is better than another, much like much like people assuming that elves happen to be the epitome of beauty and orcs are not, right? Which may not be a thing. Yeah, Ivor says, much respect for the Amber Chronicles. Yeah, this thing. Um, Living Like Dice goes on to say, the game could get very interesting and funny as a as a D&D Maury Povich session. I don't know about, well, I guess. I don't know about that, but it will be pretty funny. Eventually, the obsessed creature um, catches the hands just like the unwilling baby daddy. A reformation or redemption arc could be a fun role playing session where the PC tries to act as friend and therapist to help the monster cope with the rejection. Which, if we tend to think about it, right, you could start an adventure off with doppelganger and Fade's noble family. Doppelganger escapes with child of noble family, simple kidnapping thing, and then as the players are ready to beat ass, they end up finding out maybe the doppelganger's pretty innocent in this whole thing, right? Maybe the doppelganger's being hunted, much like a Beauty and the Beast kind of story, where the PCs are like, maybe this isn't such a great idea to kill the doppelganger and stuff. Maybe this isn't such a great idea. Yeah, Dead Man puts in the Amber Chronicles. I remember it was a diceless role playing game. Pretty cool. Yeah. And of course, Ogre puts in, yeah. It also, let's face it, there'll always be that one guy who'll demand that an appearance stat means how big is my genitalia, right? Yeah. When you start putting in things like that, yeah. Amber diceless. I don't remember the exact system for that, the diceless role playing system, but yeah, uh, yep, of course, yep. Like Tesla Ranger says, my card piece is bigger than yours. Yeah, I don't know what the. I'm sure there's a female equivalent to that, but I'm not sure what it is. Um, Unless it's just overall general fashion and attractiveness or something, which honestly really does have something to do with what we're talking about, right? Meaning that, meaning that in a society where there is a form of attractiveness and fashion and looks and appearance, and I don't mean universal, meaning the entire setting. You only need one city, really, or or what have you. Maybe when those who wear purple in their makeup and their hair is dyed purple or something is more attractive than anything else. Maybe there's a certain bodily look that is one desired over the other, and that in and of itself could be part of a storyline where um, obsession and jealousy. There are people who are jealous because other people are just happen to be more fashionable, or their body type, just they happen to be born with a different body type, and that's also a problem as well. The mythological gods have always taken out their anger and their jealousy on human beings because Aphrodite just doesn't happen to be the most beautiful godling in the world. There's this other mortal hanging around minding his or her own business. And so we've even heard of stories where a sculptor sculpts a statue that is so beautiful and lifelike it turns alive or something. And so yeah. Thank you, Dead Man. Yeah, he says he pinned a comment that would be more fitting for Wednesday. Uh okay, that sounds perfect. I read through it, but I absolutely agree with you there, Dead Man. And maybe we'll start off with that and maybe build around it. Okay. Hmm. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Yeah. Uh, Rickard says, Greek gods always make up reasons to mess with humanity. Yeah, they sure. Yeah, they do pull excuses out of their ass quite a bit on that sense. So yeah, you're right. It's not really necessarily jealousy. It's more like I'm bored and I like to mess with humanity on my chessboard. What's a good reason? I know I'll be jealous of their looks, right? Um, Yeah, Rick goes on to say, I'm sure Aphrodite would find a reason to mess with humanity, even if she was named the most beautiful. Yeah, 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 yeah. Warwick says that could be a knowledge history to know cultural trend. Ooh, yeah. Oh, well, okay. Reading on Reichor's comment, he says that can be a knowledge history to know. Ooh, it just moved to know cultural trends. In other words, stretching out that comment, um, when player characters, let's say the player characters enter into a certain community, they may, uh, you know, make some sort of knowledge or history check, or maybe some kind of have some social information as to what the population finds acceptable or not acceptable, attractive or off-putting, right? There are certain types, you know, maybe the half cloak, trimmed in gold is far more approachable. Maybe there's certain types of perfumes or the way one's hair is coiffed, um, tattoos or face painting or any number of things that people considered to be attractive, whether that person is from that culture or not. An example would be in classically in African cultures, the idea of um, body scarification and modification, whether they are, um, you know, burns and scarification, the inserting of you guys know what I'm talking about. Lip plates, earlobes, the wearing of rings to extend the neck, that kind of thing, right? Lots of those things are can be taken to an extreme, at least seen from the outside. That one thing is far more um, uh, one thing is far more attractive than the other. I was going to bring that up too. Yeah. Light says a cultural misunderstanding. You accept a bowl, a wreath, and drank from someone's cup. Congrats! Now you're married. Yeah, that can be a tropish kind of thing. Like, oh, here, hold these flowers, and you're like, sure, and drink from this cup. Tastes pretty good. Great, now you're married. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Did I just wait, what? No. And you're like, you're dishonoring my daughter, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden the um hilarity ensues because you've done something by accident, right? Yeah, Tesla Ranger puts in the TV tropes like, here's the guy. I've been here every night watching you sleep. And the girl's like, oh, Edward, that is ever so romantic. Yeah, no, we've gotten to the point where, yeah, the obsessed guy, following the woman around forever and ever to try to get her attention. Like, well, if I bother her enough, eventually, if I force her, she'll like me, right? And at a certain period of time, that was actually the cool thing. Now we're like, that's a little stalkery. That's a little bit stalkery. Uh, Oh man, Ivor's like imagine Paris Hilton with godly power. Uh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah. Yep. Or like Rorik says, green is out of season. Yeah, heck, you could have imagine the PCs leave and it's like, ooh, I got a green cloak. When I go back to town, I'm gonna be the talk of the town when I go back with my brand new green cloak and come back and everyone's like wearing red and you're like, you're wearing green? Ugh, ugh. I'm gonna add 20% to my costs because you decided to wear green, or heck, you might even be shooed out of the tavern for daring to wear green during the summer season or something like that, right? Oh man. Um, Dante says, my usual basic fighter dude is always a widower or divorced. Gives me an angle to snub advances by characters and NPCs to get back to being grumpy old fighter dude. Technically relevant. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that had happened with the aforementioned barbarian. She accepted a blanket. Oh, this is the thing. She accepted a blanket, failed the local knowledge check, accidentally agreed to agreed to the courtship blanket. Yeah, those are kind of cool little concepts too, especially if you're if the PC is just like trying to push off the advances of those that are around them. And remember, um, things that draw people to others do not necessarily need to be measured by attractiveness. Uh, Sometimes, based on the culture, there is a status has a lot to do with it. Whether someone is knowingly very rich or has lots of connections. There are those who are attracted to physical prowess, running, jumping, leaping, being very strong, being a fighter, someone who can defend themselves and defend their family. There are noble bloodlines. Some people are just attracted to the bloodline for personal gain or what have you. There are even those who are drawn to others simply by the legends that are said about them, right? Yeah, Rickard. Yeah. Yep. Did you say someone was wearing green? Yeah. Well, why don't we just put this over the other person's neck? Yeah, exactly. Tesla says, quote, if you take sexual advantage of her, you're going to burn in a very special level of hell, a level they reserve for child molesters and people who talk at the theater. Yeah. Yep. Or like yep, like the marriage of Captain Reynolds in Firefly. Like, wait, what? Did I just agree to what? And who knows? Heck, we may not even understand the social intricacies of a particular culture. Maybe there's polyamory in a culture, or multiple wives and or husbands in a particular culture, or heck, a battle to the death after obtaining five potential mates. They must all battle to the death in an arena or something like that to find the one that's right for you or what have you, right? You could kind of pull on it and have some fun with it, and make fun of it, basically. Yeah. um oh man. Yeah. like Rorik said, like wearing green after the ladies' day, absurd. Of course, you could Rorik's bringing up, like, heck, you could have holidays to deal with it, or maybe even a particular day of the week. Let's say Thursday is Ladies' Day in in this particular region. You sail to this place and you're like, oh, this place is really fun, and now you're wearing green on Ladies' Day, and everyone looks at you like, ugh, like, why would you do that? You don't know what the green cloak means, which the green cloak could have been an identifying marker of someone who would um, sneak into women's homes and commit vile acts, or maybe the queen was having an illicit relationship with someone and who was only known as wearing the green cloak or something like that. And so, yeah, it could be. We know in our own culture here, at least here in the States, that the Scarlet Letter, um, even through different time periods, we've known of that someone having sexual relations outside of marriage are looked upon as um, having a different social status once that information is revealed. And so that could also be something that pushes a story forward, where someone's either trying to regain their old status or trying to break down or destroy the social strata that creates a situation where people are removed from their position in life, based on that. Yeah. Excuse me. Owen says there are matriarchal families among Australian Aborigines where women can marry multiple men. Exactly. And again, from the outside, we may look at it and go, "Oh, that polyamorous relationships. That makes no sense." And I don't like that because my culture, it doesn't exist. But maybe there's a specific reason why it does exist in this other culture. For example, uh, people travel to foreign land. There's a lot of something happens where the population starts dying off. So there's a need to breed as many people as possible. And maybe this has become, it went from a necessity to a tradition to something that is a desirable family, and so then over time, the one thing becomes becomes even greater. Yeah, Tesla. Um, um, yeah, it says, I'm not going to be ignored, Dan. Alex Forrest in Fatal Attraction. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, look, just look up here in the chat. I'm not. I'm not catching that in the chat. I mean, uh, elaborate more over there on Twitch if you may. Cameron, hey, what's going on, there, Cameron? Um, says I'm writing a fantasy New Orleans inspired city state, and the city has a love for its mysterious past and jazz. Oh, I like that. I'm planning for those things um, to be drives for plot hooks, since my players like that stuff. You know, as I was talking about people having desires, musical and artistic ability could be a desire from one person to another, whether conscious or subconscious, right? A person with a great voice or musical aptitude, dance, painting, charcoal, other kinds of artistic endeavors might be a thing that is a desired trait that even the PCs themselves may not understand. Oh, you guys are talking. Oh, yes, talking about Babylon 5. Sorry. I was just like, where's that coming from? Oh, yes, the Babylon 5 reference. Yeah, with the two groups, with the green and the, I guess, fuchsia or something. Um, yeah, I like that, Cameron, that it may not be looks at all. It could be, like you say, it could be someone's musical ability to play, to someone's poetic ability, or even public speaking. Even might be a thing. I've always like, we have freedom of speech on our station and open airlocks policy, Commander. Yeah, like, yeah, you can say what you want, and we will also flush you outside. um, living like Dice says, Jessica Jones, Purple Man could be a great monster baddie with a little reskinning and creativity. Maybe a monster in a dungeon that the PCs kill was keeping another creature hostage, and that's where the obsession begins. You kill the young dragon only for the drow to fall in love with you. Ooh, yeah. Getting into some monsters. This is Monster Monday, so let's talk about some of our classic monsters and how they fit into the love obsession thing. Like you said, Live and Let Dice brings up the idea that PCs do the classic thing. Let's go kill the monster, and the monster's been holding someone hostage or something hostage, and that hostage now um, becomes the new, finds one or more of the player characters as an obsession. Hell, you could even have a big bad guy cause all kinds of horror in the world simply to impress one or more of the PCs, right? Like, could you imagine? I don't know. A Naga is completely evil, but doesn't want to hurt one of the PCs because they happen to have some kind of weird, strange obsession or even like desire or something. Heck, you could have some lieutenants of the bad guys stalking the PCs, not to hurt them, but like maybe they're just attracted to them, leaving the severed heads of small animals at the foot of their bed as trophies for love or something. Like that would be a really strange and weird way for where the PCs are like, well, I don't want to hurt you because you you you're doing this out of what you perceive as being nice, but you're hurting other people when doing it. Like, for example, a ghost that possesses other innocent people to try to gain and then try to start relationships with the PC, but the ghost is ignoring the fact that the people that they are flowing into are of different types of races and ages and genders and stuff. And it's like, stop following me around. Stop possessing innocent people. And it's like, but I love you as an 87-year-old man. You know what I mean? And then next it's like a 26-year-old beautiful woman. And then next there's like a 16-year-old child or something. And it's just like, stop it. You know, the pit fiend sprays blood all over the walls, and it's like, now if you just take a look at the mural, it's a picture of our life together as we retire, into the sunset. And you're like, you do realize you sprayed the wall with entrails. Yes, yes, yes. But beside that, take a look at the beauty. There's a sunset over here and a lake house. I can just see us retiring there. Don't you see it? Don't you see what I see? And they're like, yeah, I see brain matter falling off the walls, dude. Like, what? you know, Rickard says, gotta head out. Need to stop by the store. If you're still streaming when I get back, I'll catch you then. Otherwise, I'll catch you tomorrow. Dude, have a great one now. And life is always far more important than hanging out here, but I will be here, man. Have a great one. Ivor says, Commander, you're really gonna flush this reporter through the airlock? But he speaks lies and crap about us. Commander, we are under siege. We're short on resources, and you decide to throw out such a beautiful jacket? Next time, before you throw out the trash, remove the jacket first. I love that. I forgot that. Yeah. Could you imagine? It's like the people were like, don't kill the PCs, and the PCs are like, ooh, they're not going to kill us, and like, remove the green cloaks from them. Okay. Now kill them. Like, what? Oh man. Oh man. Dead Man says, puts in the episode Angel One from Star Trek The Next Generation. The Enterprise visits the planet Angel One in the hopes of rescuing the survivors of a Federation vessel that crashed there several years before. It's taken many years for them to receive the distress call, and they're not sure what to expect. They do know that Angel One is a matriarchal society where women are the stronger and men adopt a more subservient role. They face an unusual problem when they find the survivors. As for Riker, he has to tread carefully when the planet's leader, Beata, takes an interest in him. Aboard the Enterprise, Picard and Dr. Crusher have their own crisis when a severe flu epidemic strikes the crew. And that is another thing, right, where a different culture measures, there's a different social status, much like in classic Dungeons and Dragons, right? The Drow is a matriarchal society. They might find it pretty obscene even for the men, outsiders as men, to be forthright when it comes to the women in that culture. As a matter of fact, they even, if you've read some of the R.A. Salvatore books, that the Drow men are called boys even, and very few of them rise up to a level where they have any respect. Although in a very strange and obsessive possession kind of way, the women will have an entourage of men, their own harem of men, to give birth to stronger members of the Drow race. So it could be very much obsession and desire, and the need to want to be with someone to breed a stronger race might be important. Someone might be desired, and remember, it might not be personal desire; it might be social, a social touchstone. Like, it's not that I think that person is attractive; it's because the rest of my society thinks that person is attractive. So I want to be with that person to obtain them so that I get a greater social status. And that could be from any kind of physical or economic or political status, right? Hey, they're an adventurer and they kill dragons. Therefore, I want to be with them because other people think that they are a valued member of society. So I want to be with them, right? Very much a thing. And also, hell, the classic, many of our human-faced monster-bodied monsters would very much, like Ivor says, like in modern society, co-signing what I said. Yeah, in our own modern society, how many times have we seen stories even of two people together that the rest of society says, why are you with them? You shouldn't be with them, right? And you can make a laundry list of that, whether it's racial, whether it is because someone lives on a different border, whether they have a different language, because of their body style, whatever, so on and so forth. Heck, they've got freckles, they have a certain hair color, um, certain they wear certain types of clothing. Heck, even you could even go with uh, there used to be a big thing about tattoos here in the states. That was a big deal, and having them and not having them, and so on and so forth, right? Even having certain jobs counted that way. I can't believe, some rich family member, I can't believe you're going to go out with a person who's performing some bottom level job or something, but I love them. But you're not going to have a real life, and prince and pauper idea, right? So, but taking that and turning it into something arcane, a Medusa who has been cursed but wants to get together with their betrothed, or a human person whose love has been turned into a Medusa, but they still love that individual. Yep. Ivor says he's 89-year-old billionaire. She's an 18-year-old mortal. Pure true love, of course. Yeah, exactly, right? Um, yeah, the who's to say whether a relationship is good or not? And of course, we from the outside can say, you know what? Looks like they're using each other, right? Or one is using the other, and maybe it is true, maybe it's not. But pretty interesting if the werewolf is, someone else's lost love, or the Naga was transformed that way after, um, pronouncing their love in front of everyone and they were cursed or something, or um, on maybe there's something arcane in the world where on a specific wedding day, when the two get together on their wedding day, all must be there in attendance. And if you say one word, what's the term in a lot of weddings, for speak up for those who feel these two shouldn't be together. Well, maybe there's some arcane power behind it, that if someone speaks up and says no, they shouldn't be together, that some arcane punishment or curse happens to somehow transform one or more of those involved in it or something. Or maybe, just maybe, there's a kind of like trial or something. Like maybe there's some arcane monster that if only they could find their true love, they will turn back to human again or something. Beauty and the Beast wise, right? Someone who's transformed into a manticore or a minotaur or something like that, or a cyclops and whatnot. Or maybe they aren't transformed at all. Maybe it is the Beauty and the Beast. Maybe it is King Kong. The evil monster draws the eye of the beautiful princess as a common trope, and the beautiful princess realizes that you know the ugly troll isn't as stupid as needed, but loves classic music and hearing poetry and stuff, and everyone treats them the wrong way and whatnot. How many? A lot of times, even a classic storytelling element is, you're watching television, right? Come on, you've seen this before. You watch an episode of television, and what happens during the end of the television episode? The young lady throws up somewhere. I'm not feeling too good. Throws up in a trash can. The young lady looks around and goes, "I'm pregnant by doom," and it's one of the characters, right? And so the the idea that maybe someone has been having, at least within this culture, some kind of illicit relationship, or maybe there's some kind of transformative element, like, hey, if we go to the old hag, I'm trying to, what's something that's completely inhuman, like a demon, a fiend has come to the mortal plane and has transformed themselves into basically what looks like a normal human, and has fallen in love with someone here, impregnated their loved one, and then realizes that, like, I don't want to bring evil to these people. I didn't want to bring any pain to them. I just happened to find this individual. I find them attractive and whatnot. Yep. Anna Nicole Smith. Yep. Found by uh by her far older betrothed. Yep. And these individuals, the demon realizes that although they wanted to do something innocent, that they bring together, you know, they their relationship brings together a tumultuous and violent kind of aspect, right? What if a local knight's order is out there slaying demons and devils, and they find out that the woman is impregnated, right? Does she, maybe they capture her or want to kill the child? They want to go and slay the fiend that's fallen in love with the woman, because apparently the fiend could never fall in love with a human being. They're just using her. And then the fiend is just like I just happen to fall in love. And maybe later on you find out the fiend is technically, uh, in an arcane kind of way, the fiend is actually female, but took on a male body because they knew that the woman that the fiend fell in love with wouldn't fall in love with the fiend in their normal form, like say like a succubus or something. And then that even can get even more detailed, because maybe the fiend is technically in a abusive relationship with some other fiendish creatures, and then that could have its own problems and issues and stuff. And so you could have this have like a circle of soap opera drama going on, amongst the violence that's happening when the PCs are punching people in the throat. Yeah. Dead Man bringing the knowledge. Yeah, Anna Nicole Smith and J. Howard Marshall, and that whole thing, right? Is it really love? Is it not? And then seen from the outside versus seen from the inside. It can be um, a little bit. Uh, you never know where people are coming from. Um, Lastly, I will say that Living Like Dice says this was a cool way to jumpstart my morning. Take care, DBJ. Always good spitballing adventures, adventure stuff with you. Yeah, that's what this show is basically. Take an idea, steal it, knock the cobwebs out the brain, kind of thing. So yeah, and of course we're going to talk about this. Yeah, Pet Ogre is like shrugs. Age difference is a well-known kink, and you never know. We may all have our own desired oddities that on one hand might be considered innocent, and on another hand could be considered quite foul, right? Hell, even Deadman says, or you break the princess out of the castle, freeing the dragon that was guarding the castle, who then falls for the donkey. I wonder where that came from. Right? And who's to say that, like you said, like the dragon doesn't fall for the donkey? you know, different. Heck, there are people who love different species. Um, I think there are even people who have desires for rather inanimate objects and such, and they get off on that. So, but anyway, guys, tomorrow's Discord Tuesday, where we talk a little bit more about mechanics. We definitely talk about the attractiveness slash comeliness statistic. Maybe we might even talk about some gaming statistics when it comes to relationships with people, and whether we should or shouldn't even mechanize those things. And we're going to talk about some other things as well. But I will say thank you very much for joining in. Again, this show is TriCast over Twitch, YouTube, and our Discord server. So do understand that maybe, just maybe, your comment might be highlighted, but there will be situations where that won't be the case. But I very much do want you to participate in the show and hang out with everyone. Guys, I want you all to have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. See ya. Thank you.